Assalamu alaikum. My name is Salim Zadiki, and thanks for watching the HotConflict.com series on the importance of Eid, the great day of celebration, or the great festival day of the Muslims, or the celebration of the sacrifice. Well, we've been talking about some of the stories and how they relate to understanding what things mean from a Western point of view. And one of the things that we always do in the Hot Conflict website is we explain stories from the olden days and the truth that the Muslims have in a way that's able and understandable for a Western audience. And so, again, some of the things that we're going to be talking about are strange and a little bit weird, and so obviously you want to be paying attention to what the true story is. And like I said, I'm going to be giving you the truth of what is really going on in this world or planet that we call Earth, and us, people, the children of Adam, the human race. Where when last we left off, we were talking about Solomon. Solomon, the majestic nature of Solomon the wise. Solomon, who had been given the blessings by God to what? Be able to understand and communicate with every living thing. Understanding all the dimensions of communication, right? Even the trees would speak to him. All living things could speak to Solomon. And Solomon knew the nature of all things, and with that, he was able to control the jinn and alien races and use them to build this great magnificent temple in worship to the Lord. And he was able to understand the true nature and properties of everything. Meaning, from the time of Solomon comes all the prophetic healing, because Solomon knew what each plant's properties were. He could communicate with and he understood it. Same thing with all the minerals and the elements and everything that Allah, the Lord Most High, made. And we said that in understanding the terminology that we use as Muslims, we say a Muslim means someone who's submitting that there is only one God. And Islam is the definition of somebody who's understood the truth of the reality of the world that we're living in and understands what we're talking about. That's called Islam. And that you as a human are slave to no one. We are born free. Human, the greatest race that God ever made. But see, something happens in a group that is blessed with so much. We said about the Jews that the Jews were at a time where Solomon was blessed with so much knowledge and so much information. And so the children of Israel were the keepers of the truth and the belief in the Lord and the bearers of the prophets. The descendants, Solomon and David and Joshua and Moses, and Joseph, and Jacob, and Isaac, to our great father Abraham. And it's important to understand how this story plays out. Because if you've been listening before and you listen ahead, you'll see that there's a reason why everything is the way it is. The truth is the truth, and it's always there, and it's always right in front of you, and it can't be concealed. And those who search for it and those who look for it can always see it. It's the truth. You might not be ready to understand, and you might not be in a position to comprehend what I'm talking about. And the story might not make any sense to you today. But there's nothing untrue about the story. Now we all know, as tales always go, with great power comes great responsibility. And the Jews were given the greatest of powers. Imagine being the elite rabbis of the children of Israel after the time of Solomon, to have had so much knowledge, and God only knows how much knowledge Solomon shared. But Solomon did show us some very interesting things. As we know that Solomon, when he completed building his temple, he wanted to bring the Queen of Sheba. And Sheba was brought, right, to be brought as a wife to Solomon. And so, one day when Solomon was sitting in his court amongst all the alien races that he had captured by understanding how to bind them with the knowledge that God had given him, with the ring that he had made. Solomon was saying, what would be impressive for me to get Bilqis, or the Queen of Sheba, to say yes? I mean, I'm Solomon, I've got this huge temple. What do I do to really, really impress this lady, right? She's a pious-believing woman and I want her to marry me. She's the Queen of Sheba. What's a good thing? And somebody suggested in his court, bring her throne. Bring her throne. Before she gets her, she's left her home and she's traveling towards your temple to come and see the great King Solomon, who has built a temple to the Lord. Right? And all across the lands, people are starting to know that Solomon, the great prophet of the true Lord, had built a mosque where people worship Allah, the one true Lord. So Bilqis was coming, Queen of Sheba. And so what happens? One of the jinns, or the alien races, or the interdimensional beings, says, what? I can go. And he was what? An Ifrit. An Ifrit is the Arabic term for the large race of the aliens, what in modern scientific terms, or some of the modern day ufologists will term as the large draconians, I believe. Tailed, winged, able to fly and carry large objects, whatnot. The jinn says, and this is all in the Quran, but it's never been told to you. I told you I'm going to tell you the story, and it's exactly the same story that you heard before, but you probably never heard it like this. So the other alien says, I can bring it before you get up from your throne. And Solomon was sitting on his throne in his temple. And then here's a very important line that you have from the Quran. And then a person in the court of Solomon who had knowledge of the book. Who had knowledge of the book. What is the book? Meaning the Word of God. Somebody who had knowledge of the Word of God said, I can bring it to you before you blink your eye. Right? Because I have knowledge of the Lord. I have knowledge of the Lord. And the Lord's power is not like a jinn or one of the alien interdimensional races' powers. I mean, we're not talking about a being that goes somewhere, picks something up, and brings it back. Allah's power is Allah's power. He is the Lord Most High, the one who created the universe. Right? And so the man says, with the power of the Lord, I can bring it before you blink of an eye. Meaning what? Instantaneously. Allah's power is what? Kun fayakun. Be and it is. That's the power of the Lord. Allah's Allah. He's the Lord Most High. What have we been trying to say is the fundamental? If you're a Muslim, that Muslims are trying to tell non-Muslims, and everybody keeps confusing you on what it means. La ilaha illallah. There is no other God except Allah. Allah meaning the God, the one and only. The same God of Adam, of Noah, of Abraham, of Moses, of David, of Solomon, right? And so the man in the court of Solomon says, I can bring it before you blink your eye. And so when Bilqis, Queen of Sheba, got there, her throne was already there, and it's kind of a pretty impressive deal. I mean, way better than roses or anything. You're like, wait, that looks just like my throne from home, right? What's better to have than your own chair, right? Doesn't matter who you are, right? You get to come and you're like, hey, that's my chair, right? Better than roses for sure. So, hey, it worked, right? It definitely did work. And so here's the problem with the story, and this is where things change. It's such a sad, sad tale, right? And this is where things start to change as time goes on slowly. The true knowledge starts to get lost and the light starts to dissipate, and the powers of darkness, both from the other side and even from mankind, in our own evil lusts and desires and greeds and searching for knowledge or information for the wrong reasons. We continue to enslave ourselves into the plots of Satan in so many ways. And so even amongst the blessed people, the chosen people, and they definitely were the chosen people and blessed by their very nature to get the Word of God and so much knowledge, time started to get somewhat strange. And perhaps there was a changing and infiltration into parts of the community of believers. And slowly, slowly, other knowledge started to appear, and people started to look more into the occult and the hidden and search for things in the wrong ways, and God knows how much of the knowledge of Suleiman or Solomon passed on. But we have clear descriptions of strange things that started to occur in the Jewish community.